Right, let's begin then. As we always do, let us all take a moment to bring our palms together in veneration of the Supremely Enlightened One, the Perfect One, the Undefeated One, the Unvanquished One, our teacher, our master, and our guide. As we make this veneration to His holy name, let us also remind ourselves that this is not a mere veneration, but also a pledge of allegiance that we take, an oath that we take upon ourselves to keep ourselves true and loyal to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, which represent the ultimate destination, the journey to that destination, and the path and the practice that we undertake along that path to ultimate bliss. May all our efforts guide us, and in that hope, with that prayer in mind, let us make this veneration to the Buddha, take refuge in the Noble Triple Gem, observe the precepts, and continue with today's proceedings. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I'm going to try and not get sidetracked today. I have a habit of doing that. It's you who does that to me. It's your fault. Have you not learned not to point your finger at others? Where did you learn that? And then Swami Namaste says it's your fault. Okay. You will need every modicum of merit that you will have gathered throughout your journey of samsara to get what we are about to discuss today into you and into your system. It's one thing to understand it at an intellectual level, but it's another to actually comprehend it and make it part of your thought process, make it part of the very person that you are. Because what we're about to do is to make an effort to try and understand the three characteristics which underline every conditioned entity in existence. These are the fundamental truths that govern everything. If you've understood this, you've understood it all. It's a pretty bold claim, but it is what it is. You will understand how the whole world comes into existence if you can understand this. These are the fundamentals. With this and from this, you can extend this knowledge to apply it to various other examples, situations, every other conditioned entity. So the application itself you can do on your own terms and in your own time. But to apply it, you have to understand the basics first. There may be quite a few, if not all, I might even add, people in the audience today who have already grasped these concepts. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be surprised actually if there weren't anyone here. If there wasn't anyone here who didn't understand this. But maybe it's always useful to go over this if you have already grasped these concepts. And if you haven't, then that's still okay. I have to say that it's possible that there may be one or two or maybe a few of you who may not get the concept even after we have done what we are about to do today. But don't despair. The sásana is never a place for you to despair. Because like I said, what we need today is merits. And you have been doing plenty of that. You offer alms, you offer pirikara, you help each other, you look after, you support your families. That also can earn you merits, particularly what you do for your parents. That's very special. These are things that we have always been talking about. What you do for your parents are tremendously meritorious. And then every other action, thought, or word that you would have expressed to help another person, to support them, out of generosity, charity, all of these things would have earned you merits, and those merits will come to your rescue, will come to support you today. So without further ado, as we have quite a bit to get through, let's get started. So drinks are on the house today. I'm going to put down 3 words on the board, and it's these 3 words that we're trying to wrap our heads around today. You will know them the moment I start writing. Is that legible? Okay. Perhaps I should choose a darker color. Try this one. It's better, that one. Let's try this. Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. These 3 characteristics are so vital to your understanding as a Buddhist. In fact, I might even go as far as saying, it is only someone who has understood these 3 characteristics could consider themselves to be a true Buddhist. Because until you understand these 3 concepts, you wouldn't know what to actually do as a Buddhist. You can be virtuous, you can be kind, you can offer alms, you can go to the temple, you can offer flowers and do all sorts of good, wholesome deeds, but to exit samsara, that is not within reach until you have crossed, you have absorbed and imbued this information, this knowledge. But listen, understand, it is more than a mere knowledge. It has to be, you have to instill it within yourselves. It's kind of like installing this as your operating system. It's kind of like putting on a pair of glasses, and from henceforth you will be able to see and look at and study and observe the world through this lens. So I'll be using several analogies because I think that's the best way to, there may be other ways, but this is probably one of the better ways to understand this concept. Now, I'm going to draw your attention back to a few things that we discussed some months ago. If you recall, we discussed the point that necessity is the mother of invention. Now that's a very kind reminder. So can I also ask anyone else who's got a mobile phone on you to kindly put it on mute or put it on vibrate mode so that it doesn't interrupt the sermon? It's okay, it happens to everyone, has happened to me in the past as well, so nothing to be embarrassed about. But if you have one on you, then please put it on mute or on vibrate mode so it doesn't interrupt the person sat next to you. So thank you for the reminder. Because as I said, you need your full attention to this, to get this into your heads, and those little interruptions might spoil it for you. And we don't need that. So I'll use a few analogies to get this point across. If you recall, one of the examples we used back then was this pen. I asked you, and I'll ask you again, the presence of this pen indicates something to you. There wouldn't be a pen in this room if there wouldn't be what? Can you fill in the blanks? The necessity to Right, indeed. So unless there's a necessity, there's not going to be an invention, an object. So all of these things are here because there's a necessity. So somehow, necessity has the power to form things, or to make something happen, to make something present. Now, you're all here for what reason? Are you not here out of necessity? Why are you here? Because you want to attain Nibbāna. You want to find bliss, you want to find happiness in life, right? You want to understand the dhamma, and that's why you're here. So that necessity has brought you here. And you know that the Swami Nānze will arrive at some point and he will give a talk. And are you going to be here till tomorrow? At what point do you decide it's now time to go home? At the end of the talk. Meaning, so why don't you stay after the talk? Because they kick you out. No, they won't do that. Why do you leave after that? Because your necessity is not going to be fulfilled after that. You are here for the talk, so once the talk is done, there's no longer a need for you to stick around. So that's why you leave. So, in the same way, ladies and gentlemen, everything you can see around you, before the object, before the event, before the situation, there's always a necessity that precedes it. So unless there's a necessity, that which fulfills the necessity does not have a place there. So you could extend that from atoms to the entire universe then. This world as we know it, from the grains of sand that are beneath your feet, to the mountains, to the stars, to the planets, to the galaxies, and to the whole universe out there, before all of that came into being, there was a necessity. And it was to fulfill that necessity, all of these things came into existence. Does that make sense to some extent, at least, to begin with? Okay. Now then, I'm going to move over to do a little bit of a practical demonstration. So you've got the concept now, and I'll be asking you some questions. Please engage and respond. Don't give me war and peace when I ask you a question. Just short answers would suffice. And those questions will also only prompt you for short answers. So you'll be all right. I have in my hand you can answer that. I have in my hand a what? A glass. A wine glass, a wine glass, yes. So let's just take a moment to think about this glass for a second. This material that makes up this glass wasn't always a glass, was it? The material that makes this glass, so say silicon dioxide, this wasn't always glass. It was something. We don't know what it was, but something. It doesn't matter what it was. But when you see this glass, now as you very rightly said, this is probably what we would call a wine glass. Let's come to the wine part a bit later. Is that okay? Or do you want the wine part first? Let's come to the wine part later. Okay, so initially this is just a glass. It's generally a glass, right? So the fact that there's a glass, what does that tell you? That there's a necessity. Indeed, yes. Necessity for what? To drink? Well, you could say it was to contain something. It's a container before it is something to drink out of, isn't it? It's a container. So this object has come into this world because there was a necessity to contain liquids. Are you all in agreement with me on that? Okay. And if you study the shape of this object, this glass, you can see that it has a little thing from which you can hold it. So again, there's another necessity there. To hold it conveniently in one hand. Whereas maybe a bowl like this, the one that Swami Mahansa uses, because we don't drink wine out of these things, I tend to hold this with both hands because they're sizable, quite large, and sometimes it can be heavy depending on what it's made out of, right? But it's a bit cumbersome. Whereas these glasses, they're made for style. See, it's made in such a way that you can hold it in one glass and you can have your bit of banter. This is not for banter. This is for bana. Okay. So the presence of a glass tells you what? That there's a necessity to contain a liquid. Now, this is not just any old container, this is a glass, meaning it's made to contain a certain amount of liquid, maybe just enough for one person to consume in one sitting, let's say. So there are plenty of other containers, say for instance, there's this one. I pray to God I don't drop this. So this container, for instance, do you think this is made for one person for one sitting? Well, I can say sometimes it depends what the contents are. Now, don't be naughty. So, do you think that this is made for one person for one sitting? No. This tends to be something that holds a larger quantity of a fluid or liquid, and we would tend to pour, right, or extract some of that content into something like this. But then as you see both these objects, ladies and gentlemen, let me put them both on the table. So you have this and you have this, right? There's a lot that can be said about necessities. What's common between these two things? What necessity is common? Absolutely. They're both containers. Meaning, regardless of what shape, what size they are made, there was one necessity that they were both made to fulfill, and that was the necessity to contain a liquid. Okay, so that was the first necessity that came into this world. Let's say someone had that necessity, because it would have been someone who wanted to make this, right? These don't grow on trees. Someone wanted to make this. So they first had the thought, I want something to hold a liquid. And then from there came further necessities, such as, let's make one that can contain a larger amount of liquid so that several people can have whatever they need out of it. And so this came into being. Then there was another necessity, a different one, a separate one, that was, let's make one for one person. And then this came into being. So you see, now we can start counting these necessities on the fingers of our hands. The common necessity was to contain a liquid. And then you can keep on counting more and more necessities. See, this one, for instance, would be to hold a large amount of liquid for maybe several people. That's another necessity. This one is for one person, which is a very different necessity. So that's three, right? And you might wonder why this is shaped in this manner. So it's quite stylish. It doesn't have to be like this, but it's still shaped in this manner. Maybe this is for, it appeals to a certain setting. This may not be something you might offer a Buddha puja in, for instance, but it's something that you might have at a social gathering. Let's see what else we have. So here's another one. What is this? Yet another wine glass. These are all wine glasses today. Cocktail. Cocktail glass, right? What is this? I don't know. What would you call this? What do you use it for? Is it a vase? Could you maybe put some water into it and put some flowers? A what? Sorry? A pitcher. Okay, pitcher. Yeah, all right. So that's what this is for, which is maybe similar in necessity to this one, this one here. And so now you see, now you can start grouping these things together, can't you? Let's move the one that I use out of the way. Hint, hint. Huh? Right, I'll put this out of the way as well. Right. So you see, now we can group them, can't we? What did we group them based on? You will say shape, you might say size, but ultimately necessity, isn't it? Because it was necessity that was the precursor to these objects coming into being. Okay. Now, before we proceed with the rest of the demonstration, it's clear to you then, I'm sure, that before these glasses became glasses, the material that was used to make these glasses, they were not in this shape, and it was melted and then blown into this shape. That's how glasses are made. So that stuff, the material that was used to make this, was shaped in this way. Before it took this shape, it was some other shape. We need not worry about what shape it was. So much so, don't you think that this is possible? What? Melt this and make this? What do you think about that? That's very much possible, isn't it? So really it doesn't matter what shape some material is, because whatever shape it's in, whatever structure, whatever format, whatever configuration something's in, as long as there's a necessity, you can always reconfigure that. You can always reshape it, remold it, and make it into something else. So then it really doesn't matter what shape these were before these things came into existence. So I'm still getting this concept across, and then we will show you how all this relates to Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta in a moment. Let's pour some of this liquid into one of these glasses, shall we? Be very careful. I'm scared. I might spill something. I don't want to do that. Let's try this. No, please don't say so. Swamino is very experienced in these matters. I have to go back to home to Guru Handra, you know that, right? Okay. Right, let's put that there. Now, I want you to study the contents of these two vessels. The liquid in this container takes a very particular shape. You could even say it's a very peculiar shape. Right? It's this shape. It's the shape of the container itself, right? And then the same liquid we poured into this vessel, and now it takes that shape. It's the same concept that we discussed earlier about the glass. Because the glass itself is made of some material, and you could make this into this. Because this is merely a configuration. This is just an arrangement of this matter. This is another arrangement. Now, don't you see that the liquid itself is also an example of that? See, when the liquid was in this bottle, in this pitcher, it was a particular arrangement. When we poured some of that content into the glass, now it takes that arrangement. So if I take this liquid and pour into this, what's going to happen? It's going to change and take that arrangement. So, depending on our necessity, we can keep shifting the liquid, the contents of these containers, between them and change their shape, can't we? Now, so far I have not had a necessity to transfer the contents of this container to this. So far I haven't had it. How do you know? Well, it's empty, that's how you know. But could I not? I certainly can. Well, let's do it then. No. Let's not do it. Because something more than my necessity is going to happen if I try and do that. Because it's not shaped in such a way to direct the contents into something like this, but then this is such. So in fact what I'll do is I'll take this and pour it into this. Okay. Is this going to work? Might do. Let's see. Okay, that worked. Now I can keep doing this all day, but you get the point, don't you? So here's the point, once again. I don't want to rush this, and this might seem like a really silly demonstration, but if you can understand the concept here, it'll be very simple to understand what Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. So there's no need to rush, let's just take it one step at a time. You must think, why is Swami Narayan doing this demonstration to get something like this across? Because analogies are perfect when we try to understand things. See, what we did there was transfer the contents of this vessel, this container, to this one, and right in front of your eyes you saw that what initially took this shape very comfortably took this shape. There was no resistance, was there? There was no resistance. If I wanted to, I could always transfer this back again. So you see now, this shape, actually I'm now referring to the shape of the liquid. Ignore for a moment that there's a glass in my hand. Just focus on the contents for a second. The contents themselves, or the liquid itself, has taken a shape, hasn't it? That shape is determined by what? The shape of the glass. Meaning, this shape is a necessity. Why do I say that? The shape itself is a necessity, because that necessity drives the shape that the liquid is in at the moment. So then, when I put these glasses, all of these containers in a row, what is the common necessity, once again? To contain liquid, that's number one. How many other necessities can you see in front of your eyes? How many other necessities can you count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why do I call them necessities? They're different shapes, aren't they? They would not have been constructed, made in that shape if a necessity was not there beforehand. So the necessity comes first, the shape comes second. Are you all clear about that? If that didn't make sense, please put your hand up and I'll go over it again. Thank you. All right. Great. So then we can count. First, let's count it together. Number 1, the necessity to contain liquid. Okay? That is common. That's the common denominator across all of these. Then, how many more necessities can you count? 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6. Clear? Perfect. So then, the liquid that's in any of these containers speaks about the necessity of the container in which they are. In other words, the shape that this liquid takes, which is why I have colored them so that you can see them from where you are. I'm not necessarily talking about the liquid itself. I'm talking about the shape that the liquid takes. The shape that the liquid takes, this volume of liquid, the shape that it takes, speaks actually out loud to you, silently. It says, hey, look at this necessity. The necessity to contain me, as in the liquid, in this shape. See, the same volume of liquid can be poured into another container. Has the liquid changed? Does it taste any different? Might it look different? No. Might it smell different? No. So the only difference that's going to happen when you shift the contents of this to this, the shape is going to change. Meaning, there's only one difference between these two objects. These two glasses, what is that? Shape. Meaning there was only one difference in necessity. You know, if there were multiple differences in necessity, if you shifted the contents of this liquid into this might not just look different in shape, but might even taste different, might even smell different. Why so? Well, if you shift it to somewhere else and now it tastes different, then you have to agree that there was a necessity for it to taste in that way. These shapes are indicative of necessities. Okay? The liquid example here is to demonstrate that each of these are necessities. Now, I don't need to switch the contents of these glasses between them because you get the idea now. So now let's relate that knowledge that you have just acquired. Actually, this is not new knowledge, this is common sense, but let's apply this to try and understand how the whole world is the same way. It's no different. If this glass were to shatter, what do you think is going to happen? The liquid would be all over the place. Why is that? Yes, because of the... you might think, isn't that an obvious question? I don't know why. What's he up to? It's such an obvious question. When the glass shatters, what's going to happen to the liquid? It's going to be all over the place. You might think, well, gravity, Swami, no, so that's the reason. I'm trying to get across something a little bit more subtle here. Of course, we all understand gravity. I'm not trying to give you a lesson on gravity here. Right? What I'm trying to get across, folks, is that the contents of this glass is only in this arrangement because there's a force acting on it, keeping it in that shape. Do you understand that? There's a force acting on the contents of this glass which keeps the contents of the glass in that shape. Which is why when we shifted it to a different glass, it now takes a different shape because the force acting on it keeps it in that shape. There's a force acting on it. It exerts some force on it. Which is why if this glass were to shatter, now what's lost? The force that's acting on those contents, and therefore the liquids will disperse. It'll be all over the place. And such is all energy in this universe. Energy by nature is chaotic, just like the water in this glass. This water is chaotic. It's always prepared and ready to go into a state of chaos. In fact, that characteristic is there even right now. How do you know that? How can you tell? If we were to break this glass, how much longer is the water going to be in that shape before it disperses? How much longer will it be in that shape? Soon after, right? No sooner than you break the glass, the water is going to spill everywhere, right? Which means the inherent nature of chaos, actually that nature is inherent in this liquid. It's always prepared, ready to disperse. Meaning we must always exert some kind of energy, some kind of force to keep it in this manner, in this way, in this shape. Now start to think about how this might relate to every other thing in this world. Are you going to suggest to me that this shape which the liquid takes is fixed. Is there anyone who might propose that the liquid in this, that the shape of the liquid is fixed? No, why not? Well, we don't have to break the glass to prove that. The moment you transfer it to a different glass, right, it changes shape, right? Meaning it's not fixed. This is not done. What is not done? The shape of this liquid isn't done. It's being done. Does that make sense? It's not done. It's not done and dusted. See, if it were, we should now be able to remove the glass and the liquid will still be like that. If it were done, like when you said jelly, like jelly, once you put it in the fridge, it's set, right? Then you could take the container away and the jelly would still retain its structure, that shape. This water is not like that. Meaning, this shape is not done. What is it then? It's being done. Like you are a human being. You're not a human done. And so is this water. In particular, so is this shape. It's being. It's a present continuous. It's continuously being, this shape. It's not done. See, when it was in this container, was it done? No. How do we know this? No sooner than you transfer it to one of the other containers, it changed shape. If it were done, let's imagine if we put this into the freezer. If we put this into the freezer, okay, well, you wouldn't be able to take it out of it. But if you did, and then we broke the glass, now you'd get the liquid in that solid form. Yeah? Now, I need you to understand this in the meaning, in the sense that I mean it. For our example, that would be a case of done. It's frozen. Now it's done. So now you don't know, you no longer need the container to give it that shape, to give it that energy, to give it that structure. That arrangement is done. Whereas this liquid is not done. But ice isn't done either, by the way. We'll come to that later. It's like that because there's still energy that keeps it in that shape. But just for the analogy, right, if you only consider these two states, right, this liquid is not done, it's being. Whereas ice is done. The thing is this. Now let's take ice and liquid for a second. Our ignorant minds tend to perceive the world as things that are done. Our ignorance minds tend to do that. It doesn't perceive the world as being. That's why you refer to yourself as I. And you quite readily acknowledge that you are a self, an entity, an individual. You don't realize that you are not done. You are being. Do you recall, some weeks back, some months back even, I explained to you that in every chitta that arises in yourselves, in your bodies, your sense of self has to be fabricated. One chitta at a time. Every single chitta has to do it. But it happens so rapidly that it gives you the impression that you are who you are. And things around you have changed. Your body has changed. You have aged, right? Maybe your complexion has changed. You have grown in size. Things have happened to you. But that sense of self, how does that feel? That feels like it was always there, right, from whenever you can remember, right? From your very young years, when you were born, it was there, and it's going to be with you until you die. You have that sense of self. That is flawed. Just like the liquid in this glass is not done, ladies and gentlemen, it has to Keep on being. Keep on being in this shape, and that's exactly what the glass is doing right now. The only reason that this liquid is, say, 3 centimeters above the surface of this table, the only reason this liquid is up on the 3 centimeters above the surface of this table is because this glass is exerting energy on it. Do you think otherwise this liquid would just float like that? Of course not. So there's energy continuously being exerted on this. Such is the nature of all things in this world. Nothing is done. It always has to be kept on doing. When we take this liquid, and now could I not put this back into this bottle, where it all came from? Can we not take all of it back to its origin? I don't need to prove it to you. You know it's obviously possible. How come that's possible? Why is that possible? It's possible because it's not fixed. It's possible because it's not done. Do you get it? It's not done. This shape is not, it's not done. See, if it were done, I would never be able to squeeze that back into this bottle. The mouth of this glass, or even the body of this glass, is larger than the mouth of this bottle. So there's no way, if this was frozen, if this liquid was frozen, could I shove it back into this pitcher? I would never be able to do that. But I can now. Why is that? Because it's not done. This shape is not done. This shape is not fixed. It's continuously being that. Now, take your finger for a second. Let's bring it closer to home. Take your finger for a second. When you look at your finger, don't you get the feeling that your finger is done? Like, it's my finger, it's done. That's the way it is, it's done. It's my finger. It's done. You get this feeling so much that it's done that if it snaps, if there's a fracture, you think your finger's broken. You think it's now broken. No, nothing ever breaks. It's not possible to break something. Don't look at me like that. So, one step at a time, we are going into the woods. Okay, it's getting darker. But I'll keep bringing you back out into the light and then taking you back in. Okay? We'll do it gradually. 2 steps in, 3 steps back, 2 steps in again. We'll do this. Nothing can ever be broken. Let me prove that to you. Okay, let's take this glass again. This liquid. Now just focus on the liquid. Okay? Can I say that now this liquid is broken in 2? Could I say that the liquid is broken into 2 pieces? Why do you not like me to say that? It's broken. Because you tell me liquid cannot break, Swami. No answer. You tell me, Swami, solids can break, but how can liquids break? You can't break liquid. Why? Why can you not break liquid? Because it's fluid. Because you know that it's always prepared to be mobile. It's the way it is. These molecules, although they are close together, they're always prepared to move and give way and take the shape of the container, which is why we don't use the concept of breakage with liquids. In fact, we don't use it with gases either. But when it starts talking about solids, now we talk about breaking. So, if I were to freeze this liquid, and now it becomes ice, and then I smash it on the floor, then what would you say? Now it's broken. If that's broken, why is this not broken? Think. We've done the same thing. Right? If I were to take this liquid, this quantity, put it in the freezer, and make this ice, and then I smash it on the floor, smash it with a hammer, and break it exactly so that it's in two pieces. One half is going to be this amount of liquid, and the other half is going to be this amount. When it comes to the solid, you will tell me that it's broken. But while it's in liquid form, you refuse to tell me that it's broken. Why? Yes, because when you take liquids, your idea, your understanding of liquids are that they cannot break because they are unbreakable. Think about why you think that liquids are unbreakable. Because you understand that they're not stuck together. They're not one. They're not one uniform entity. They're always willing to flow and separate and move apart as molecules. You have that concept in your mind, don't you? About liquids. But the same does not apply about solids. The moment two molecules that are in solid form split or separate, you say it's broken. You say it's broken. Actually, what you say, ladies and gentlemen, is the whole object is broken. Actually, no such thing happened. All that happened was, in just the same way that two halves of the same amount, the same liquid, is now in two containers, you could do the same with solids. One you say is broken, the other you don't. And here's the reason. When it's in solid form, your mind perceives the whole thing as one entity. But whereas it's in this form, you're prepared to accept that it is not one entire entity because it's liquid, it can be separate and split into various containers, and that's just the way liquids are. But you still fail at one point, and that is this. If I asked you, where do all these liquids belong? You'll still tell me it all belongs in this bottle. Because that's where it all came from. So you still have that sense of belonging, that sense of ownership, that all of this liquid, it all belongs to this bottle. This is the source. This is where it all came from. Meaning in this bottle, there's one amount of liquid, and that's an entity. But tell me frankly, which of these two liquids belong to each other? These two quantities, these two liquids, do they belong to each other? I mean, if I drink this quantity, this amount, should I also drink this so that they can live happily together ever after? Must they always go to the same place and come from the same place, like husband and wife? Must they be like that? No. See, nature does not support that way of thinking. Nature is very liberal. Nature is very free. Nature does not put restrictions because nature itself is chaotic. There is no structure to nature. You have to artificially induce structure. You have to bring in structure. You have to bring in order. Because naturally, what there is chaos. Back to the finger. Your finger is in this structure not because it's a finger, ladies and gentlemen. It's because there's energy, forces that are constantly keeping each of these cells together in this way. So much so, that is why once you're dead and you leave the body, the corpse, on wherever, it's going to start, what's the word? Decomposing. See, the word itself tells you what the opposite of that is. If that's decomposing, then how is it now? Composed. What does that mean? Means brought together. That's what composing is. How do you compose music? You bring in musical notes and you compose music. When you cook a meal, what do? You compose it, don't you? When you make a pudding, what do? You compose it. This flower arrangement, what is this? It's a composition. Is it not? Can I not decompose this? So whoever composes, please look away. See, I could decompose this. See? Now it's decomposed. The fact that it can be decomposed means that it was composed in the first place. See, you can't decompose something that was not composed. That's why it's decompose. Meaning the composition has to have come prior. Make sense? So then why is it that when you die your bodies decompose? What are they right now? Composed. Actually, they're not composed, they're not done. What are they? Composing. That's why you have to keep on eating. That's why you keep on putting energy into your bodies. That's why we eat. Actually, when we eat, we don't eat food, although we call it food. What we do is actually we keep on pumping energy into our bodies. Imagine there was a food that had no energy in it, 0 calories. How long can you sustain yourselves on that? Imagine there was a pudding called diet pudding. No, 0 calories, 0 calorie pudding. How long can you sustain yourself on that? Not very long at all. Why is that? Because if you don't put calories into your body, what are you not putting into your body? Energy. Why do you need energy? To keep composing. So what are you then? You're a composition. So next time you give a myself speech, what are you going to say? Hello everyone. I'm a composition. I come from the composition of Colombo. My father is this composition, my mother is another composition. Won't you? See, now, I want you to get your minds into this. Just start thinking and reading this world in another way. You've got to now start interpreting the world as it really is. Come out of this entity-based thinking that things are done, things are here, things are fixed, they're permanent. Shift that thinking to actually what's happening is they're continuously composing. See, we just decompose this flower arrangement. Could we not compose it back? Let's do that then. To set an innocent mind back at peace. Right, let's put it back. Now I'm certain that this composition must be a very different composition to the one that was here before. Now, what does that mean about the composition that was here before? It wasn't fixed, was it? So much so that these flowers, they have no agenda. See, these flowers have no agenda. They don't dictate, I have to be here in this place, on this vase, in this way. There's no agenda. There's no demand from them. Because they have no demand, you can compose it at your will. Just like the liquid. See, this liquid, it has no demand. It has no order that it comes in. It has no inherent order. Actually, inherently it's what? Chaotic. See, this chaotic nature extends itself, ladies and gentlemen, to us in a way that we can harness, we can leverage that chaotic nature that exists in all material things to then reorder them, rearrange them, configure them to our will. That's what we call work. What is work? How do you define work? Putting order to chaos. Why do you get paid? Why does your boss pay you at the end of the month? What do? You put order to chaos. Because what do the workers want to do? Come in every day sharp at 8 in the morning? No, what would they typically, right? Not you, Lord. Everyone else, not you. What do people typically want to do? Stay at home, right? And have the check sent. Check sent to their bank account. But as you are the manager or the supervisor, what is your job? That is chaotic. What you're supposed to do is put order. When the judge walks into the court and says, order in the court, yes? Because it's chaotic. You can't have legal proceedings in that environment. So he brings order to the court. See, this is what has just happened here. This is chaos. Now we put order. The person who does this for a living is called a florist. No? The person who does this for a living is called a florist. How about a person who puts chaos into these orders? They're called a bartender. What about someone who puts order to the hair on your head? They're called a hairstylist or a barber. So what is work then? What is work? Work is bringing order to chaos. Now, at this juncture, I have a question to ask you. Is there a right order and a wrong order? Is there a right order and a wrong order? Have a think about it. See, what does a farmer do? A farmer, his job is to bring order to chaos. What is the chaos that he brings order to? See, there's sunlight. It's all over the place. That's no good. You can't eat it like that. In fact, you can't ingest it like that, right? If there's sunlight, energy is all over the place, you can't do that. There's nutrients in the soil. You can't eat it like that. Then there's vitality in the seed. And you can't consume it like that. So what does a farmer do? And there's water and all that, right? So what does a farmer do? He brings order to chaos. So now he makes the fruit. He makes the apple. Well, he doesn't make the apple, but he makes the apple tree. But the apple tree makes the apple fruit. Then the fruit lands on the chef's table. Now what does the chef do? What the apple tree so painstakingly did by bringing all that energy into one little package, what does the chef do? Completely destroys it. Once you put it into a blender, completely destroys that, doesn't it? Because now you want to consume it, and that order is no good for you. You want it in a different order. Don't you pay both of them? Don't you pay the farmer his wage? You do. But don't you also pay the chef? You do. Well, so which one is the right order, which one is the wrong order? There's no such thing. There's no such thing as the right order. It all depends on convention. Your necessity is what demands order. When you want an apple fruit, you pay the farmer. When you want apple juice, you don't pay the farmer. Because the farmer does exactly the opposite of what you want. You want the apple to go into pulp, to become liquid, whereas the farmer is trying to make it a solid. But then you give it to the juicer, what does he do? He makes it into a liquid. So you pay that fellow. So depending on what your necessity is, different orders are required. So you place the order And then what they do is they materialize that order. Out of what? Out of the chaos that exists in nature. Now take a moment to just go through that in your mind for a second before we make progress. So these are the fundamentals of the universe, ladies and gentlemen. All things are like this. Your house is the same. What did the builders do when they arrived? What did the builders do? They put order. And when you decided, no, I don't want it this way, I want it another way. Let's say you built a wall, you built your house, it's all done, right? But then you have a new member to the family, right? So now they want, say, an attached bathroom or something like that, and now you want to knock down one of the walls. So now you hire someone, you hire another builder to knock down a wall. See, when the builder built the wall, you paid them, didn't you? You said, thank you very much for building it. Here's your money. Maybe the same builder, he comes 5 years later and he knocks down that wall. Is it fair for you to say at the end of that, I'm not going to pay you for that? You're supposed to be building walls. You just knocked down that wall. I'm not going to pay you for that. Is it fair for you to say that? If you would say that, what do you think is going to happen? Unspeakable things are going to happen. So you wouldn't do that. You would have to pay the same builder who put order and now has come to reorder. A knocked down wall is as much order as a built up wall. Agreed or not? A knocked down wall is as much order as a built up wall. How so? All depends on necessity. Absolutely. So what's the key word of today's conversation? Necessity. Absolutely. See now, once again, look at these glasses. Can't you see necessity written all over them? There's the common necessity, which is to contain a liquid, and then there are numerous necessities. How do you know? That's why they're of different shapes. That's why they're of different shapes. So this flower arrangement, what came first, the flower arrangement or the necessity? The necessity. If the necessity hadn't come, do you think the flower arrangement would have come? No. So if you left this like this, and let's say we come back next week, what would be the state of this? The flowers would have withered, they've dried, and there'd be no good at all. You'd have to throw it, right? But let's say it was part of the arrangement of this room such that, let's say there was a Swaminatha who came every day. Don't ask for that. Let's say a Swaminatha came every day, and it was your task to arrange one of these every day. We do that at the monastery, not here though. Let's say we had one of these every day. So then, every day what would you have to do? Bring in order. See, this arrangement, this floral arrangement is an order driven by necessity. So when these flowers dry and wither, you'll have to throw them and replace them with fresh flowers so that you can continue to maintain and sustain this order. Now, don't you understand then that all types of order have to continuously be maintained? Maintenance is part of the package. I'm opening your eyes up to some of the untold dark secrets of all conditioned things. You have to continuously maintain something. Even relationships. What is marriage? It is order. What if you don't maintain it? What does it go to? What does it go to? Chaos. Who here wants to take part in that voluntary experiment? I think we've all lived long enough to have seen our fair share of that, haven't we? All relationships must be maintained. That's why Nibbāna is an entirely different thing altogether. What I'm about to say can only be said about Nibbāna. So hear me out. Etang santang, etang panitang, yadidang sabba sankára Samathó, sabbupatipati nissaggo, tanhakyo, virago, nirodho, nibbānante. This is one definition of what Nibbāna is. I will just draw your attention to one particular phrase in that long thing. Sabba Sankára Samathó. What Sabba Sankára Samathó means is where there is no need for maintenance. Oh, I can't wait to get there. Just the thought of it. Just the thought of it. Where there is no maintenance required for its upkeep. See, this liquid, ladies and gentlemen, for it to be 3 centimeters above this desk, you have to constantly keep maintaining it. You might tell me, well, Swaminas, it's not me carrying it, so what's the deal? This is just an example. What about the head you have to carry on your neck? When you start feeling sleepy, now you know the drill, right? As your head starts to fall, drop like this, right? What does that tell you about your head? Is it steady there, or does it have to be kept up there? It's got to be kept up there, hasn't it? So, meaning it has to constantly be supplied with energy. There's activity, there's work that has to happen. Work has to happen, because otherwise what does it go into? Chaos. That's why when you're tired of putting in work, what do? You rest. So you put yourselves on a bed, so you don't have to keep carrying your body, because it's tiring. See, just the upkeep of your physical being is tiring enough. You want to upkeep a family as well? And a business? And a car? And a house? And a job? Wow! No wonder you say, you can do it, Swaminasa, you can do it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the paradise I want you to come with me to. Nibbāna is bliss. You know, the only reason that you're well today is because you're constantly upkeeping your health. You have to nourish yourself, you have to wash yourself, you have to guard yourself. Right? When it's cold out there, what do? You put on an ice cap or something. You put on some extra layers of clothing, right? Because what are you afraid of? Falling ill, getting sick. Meaning, your good health is something that you have to do what? Maintain. Meaning it's not Nibbāna. Meaning it's an order. An order that you have to keep on sustaining, keep on maintaining, keep on putting energy, exerting yourself. See, so don't you think that it's only work, like professions, work, careers, that's the only thing that you have to worry about. No, just being alive itself is a lot of work. It's hard work, just being alive. Being healthy on top of that is even more work. Then what about being wealthy? If being healthy is so difficult, what about being wealthy? Because everything by nature inherently is bound for chaos. See, everything that comes to you, everything that you draw towards you, inherently has a force acting in the opposite direction. You might see it coming closer to you, that's because the resultant force is in your direction, not because there's no force in the other direction. So the moment you let go, like a rubber band, the moment you let go, it snaps back. In the same way, everything that you bring towards yourself, ladies and gentlemen, has a natural tendency to fall back into chaos, because chaos is the universe's natural order. The universe's natural order is 180 degrees to your order. So the universe has a tendency to always bring it back to its natural order, which is chaos. Whereas you, on the other hand, continue to strive, endeavor, put in energy, exert yourself to constantly keep bringing things out of nature's order into your order. Who's going to win? You tell me, who's going to win? Nature. Of course nature's going to win. If you want to win, what's the only thing you can do? I have said this many times, many moons ago. Victory is the acceptance of defeat. Victory is the acceptance of defeat. Accepting it gracefully. Accepting it equanimously. Not with resentment. That is not victory. Accepting it with grace. Wholeheartedly. That is what an arahant is. See, until then, you will continue to exert energy, force. You will continue to work against nature. Nature does not want you in this way. Nature does not want you like this. That's why the moment you stop eating, what's going to happen? You begin to decompose. So what does nature want? What does nature want? Nature wants to be rid of you. You are not, you are just your existence itself is an action against nature. I'm not suggesting let's all go jump off a cliff or something. Because there's no point doing that. Because your mind still wants to be, doesn't it? So jumping off a cliff does no good. Because your mind still wants to be, the mind still wants to exist. Your mind, even when your body breaks, your mind will immediately bring energy together and form another body. That's how you get rebirth. Because the mind hasn't given up yet. The mind still wants to be. Because the mind believes that existence is pleasurable. That existence is joyful. Existence is good. Existence is fun. As long as the mind believes in existence, that existence is so great and good and wonderful and joyful, it will keep on bringing energy together to form your physical bodies. Sometimes it may be hard, solid bodies like yours. In other cases, it might be subtle bodies, soft, maybe not even visible to the naked eye. That's how you have the Devas and the Brahmas. See, necessity. Necessity is what keeps this liquid above the surface of this table. In the same way, necessity is what keeps you in this form. Necessity is what keeps us like this. If we want this like this forever, what are we going to have to do from time to time? Maintain it. Now, do you remember when you first started doing these talks in this hall? It wasn't like this, was it? Recently, they've renovated this place. Haven't you noticed? Am I right? Yes. Why? Why can't they just make it and leave it like that? Till the end of time? Like when you promised your spouse as you get off the puru. From now till the end of time. I'm yours, my darling. You think that that's a vow that you're making and it's solid, it's done, it's cemented, right? Nothing's going to change about it. 2 weeks later. Chaos. I want you to first of all accept that chaos is nature's order. If you can accept this, then you'll be okay with chaos initially. At least you will accept that chaos is the natural order. Not your order. Whose order? The natural order. You'll accept that. You'll accept that all things that you bring together will not be like that, will not remain like that forever. Because they're merely arrangements. Things that have been brought together, matter that has been brought together by energy. Just like this liquid. It's not fixed. It's not forever going to be like this. It's not even done. It is doing. What do you mean by that? It's being done. It's continuous. It's not done. You can never speak of this shape in the past tense. Can you? You can only speak of it in the present continuous tense. Are you alive or are you living? Living, yes. What if you stop breathing for 2 minutes? You won't even last 2 minutes. So are you alive? Because if you're alive, ladies and gentlemen, nothing can change that. It's done. I'm alive, that's it, done. That's not so. You are living. Meaning there are causes that are continuously contributing to that effect. Which effect? The effect of being alive. Not alive, being alive. I use these words very meticulously and with intent. I say being alive because I want to get the point across to you. It's a continuous thing. It's not done. Just like this liquid, it's not done. Because it's not done, I could always transfer this liquid to another container and it would take that shape. Because it's not done. This flower arrangement is not done. That's why a moment ago I was able to take it all apart and then put it back together again. Is it the same arrangement that it was before? Must it be? What if you don't like this arrangement? What can you do? You can change it. What is it that extends these flowers to you in such a way that they can be changed? What characteristic about these flowers extends themselves to you in a way that you can change it? The fact that they are not fixed. That is the inherent characteristic of these flowers, and they extend themselves to you. You leverage that. Just imagine if you couldn't, if they had no such characteristic, once it's set, it's set. So the only reason you can do work in this world, you can work, you can do things in this world, ladies and gentlemen, is because the whole world is anicca. Right, now let me connect that word to this idea, because you're going to take away a word. But it's not the word that's really important. It's the idea, the concept behind the word. It's fine for you to forget the word. You go home and what was it again? Anatta. You can call it whatever you like, it's fine. What's important is, you take away this idea. The word anicca means that there is no set order. If you take this word apart, the word has in itself the idea that there is no set agenda. There's no agenda. Iccha is agenda, an expectation, a set way, an order. That's iccha. Allow me to throw a very familiar word to the Sinhala speakers in the audience. You'll have heard the word. What is the Sinhalese word for disappointment? Iccha, bhanga. Bhanga is the destruction of iccha. When you have an expectation and that expectation is destroyed, that's when you call iccha bhanga or disappointment. An appointment is dist. What is the appointment? It's the order. I appoint you. Meaning you give order. I appoint you to take that shape. To be in this order. That's an appointment. But all things are inherently chaotic in nature. So it's only a fool then who sets expectations. Don't you agree now? It's only a fool who sets expectations on a world that is inherently chaotic. Because the moment you do that, what you're trying to do is go against nature. Nature has its own agenda, which is chaos, that is nature's order. You speak to nature, speak against nature, hey, nature, I'm here now. Now I'm at the party, and now I call the shots. So then you take whatever is in nature and you put it into your own order. And nature just watches and looks at you like a mother looks at an innocent child. Okay, do it. And the moment you look away, it's gone back into chaos. The moment you disregard it, it's gone back to chaos. The moment you look away, it's going to disrepair. That is what anicca means. See, anicca is about everything. All things are like that. Your mind is also characteristically anicca. And now I'm talking about your mind. Remember we talked about how when light meets the eye, and then there's the optic nerve that carries the signal, electrical impulse to your brain, right? And then your brain interfaces with your mind, and it spawns a visual object and so on, remember? All of those, each step of the way, they're all but inherently chaotic. Meaning, ladies and gentlemen, light is chaotic. It's just energy. The eye is chaotic. What do I mean the eye is chaotic? It's always looking around like this. Is that what I mean by the eye is chaotic? No, the eye is constructed out of materials, things, energy. That's chaotic by nature. So, for your eye to be like this, what must you always do? Keep on feeding yourself. That's why you study what are the things that give me good eyesight. Vitamin A, and you eat carrots for this, and beetroot for that, and this for this, and that for that. Remember? And you put what are those slices over your, what do you do it? Cucumbers, yes. Not the beauty conscious among you. You know, that's why when you grow older, right, you have to do more to keep it all there. Because it's all what? Falling apart. Because it's time to decompose. Come on, what are you up to? It's time to decompose. And you're like, hell no. I'm not ready for any decomposition anytime soon. Recompose. So then you go to the plastic surgeon. Then you go do your Botox. Then you go, I can't remember those names now. those liftings and those racings and those trimmings and all those sorts of things? Because what is nature saying? Here, enough now. 80 years enough now? I know, 120, right? It's time to decompose. Actually, when did decomposition start? At 80, then 60, 50, 40, right? Then, right the moment it started. So how come we kept on growing rather than reducing? How did that happen? Because that was the net effect. The resultant effect. Because there was little decomposition and more composition when you were younger. Relatively, there was little decomposition, more composition. That's why when you were younger, what does your mother do? Eat, 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 eat. That's all she says, right? All she wants you to do is eat. And your body is naturally inclined to keep on reproducing. The cells keep dividing. It's lots is going on inside. So there's a lot of biochemistry going on in there, right? There's a word for it, I can't remember now. Metabolism. There's a lot of the metabolism is quite high. So your bodies it's taking a lot of energy and it's actually storing a lot of the energy that it receives. That's how you grow actually. You grow by storing energy. That's why when a lion sees you, what does he see? A store of energy. That's why when the lion sees you, food. When you see a plate of rice, like we discussed a moment ago, you call it food, but what's it really? Energy in that shape. So when you eat that, and then the lion sees you, what does the lion see now? Energy, just in this shape. That's all. So stop thinking that you're a human being. You're just a bundle of energy. Who are you married to? Who did you give birth to? Why did you breastfeed your child? Mothers, what did you pump into that little one? Energy. And what did the little one do with that energy? Storage. Growth. What is growth after all? Storage. Your bones grow. What does that mean? It stores. The more you store, the more you grow. I mean, growth is not some funny abstract concept. It's just storage. That's composition. So how do you reduce then in size? As we grow older, our backs start to, we can't keep our bodies upright anymore. Our skin goes wrinkly, yes. Our hair goes grey. Our knees start to give in. Our bones start to give in. So what's going on there? More decomposition than composition. Because you can't keep up at that rate of composition. Because the structures within your bodies which were responsible for composing and storing, they don't function like they used to anymore. Because they themselves are doing what now? Decomposing. That's why. So the kitchens in your bodies, they have started to decompose. The storage rooms in your bodies, they have started to decompose. Practically everything in your body, they have started to decompose. It started the day you were born, but now it's more of that and less of the composing. That's why you see the net effect of old age. See, what I want you to understand is what's really going on within yourselves. Because then you take a very objective view of this. Then there's no need for any emotional baggage. You just understand this is just a natural phenomenon. I came from nature, and I'm going back to it. Show me one part of your body that is not something that you put in through your mouth. Name one part of your body that was not something that you first put in through your mouth. There is none. Because everything you are is what you have eaten all your lives. So when the apple decomposed in your stomach, your digestion system recomposed that into muscle, tissue, proteins, and so on. So you decided when it was time for the apple. So someone's got to decide when it's time for you, right? So nature has now, at some point, will decide to take you into its recycle bin. It's that, a recycle bin. So you're not going to be gone forever. Poof. Don't you worry, because you will be decomposed and something else will be composed again. Isn't that something to delight over? Huh? Dead is not dead forever. See, then what is death? Death in the way that you understand it. Because when you think about death, you're thinking like, I'm not going to be any longer. Not so, right? You can't even opt for that. You can't opt to exist no longer, because it's not your plan that is executed. Because there is no such thing called death. Both your body and your mind are mere compositions of energy. That was nature's plan. That was nature's agenda. So when this composition can no longer sustain itself, now nature just takes it, puts it into the recycle bin, out of it comes something else. So maybe this flower was your great-great-great-grandfather. Who knows? Could it not be? If you followed the line of thought that I've just explained to you, can you rule out that this flower is your great-great-great-grandfather? It's quite possible. So then is your great-great-great-grandfather an entity? Is he fixed? Is he one unit that is unchangeable? No. Kept together by energy. Energy keeping energy together. That's what it is. Because after all, matter is also energy. Matter is energy condensed. When you condense energy enough, you get matter. So then energy is matter, matter is energy. Einstein once declared that to the scientific world, but the Buddha made this a common, revealed this common truth many thousands of years ago. All there is energy. So anicca then is that inherent nature where nothing has an agenda, nothing has a preset plan, nothing has a set order, and by its very nature, it's chaotic. What is it? Chaotic. That is what anicca is. Right, how are we doing for time? Because I need to get to the other two. Does anicca make sense to you? Please put your hand up if that didn't make sense. What a great audience. Which means you've been paying attention. Fabulous. Right. So, let's go back to the liquid in these vessels. The reason that we can put this liquid into one of these glasses and have it take the shape of this glass is because the liquid has no inherent order. Yes? By extension of that then, ladies and gentlemen, what you see here, this shape, this order, is merely bringing together of energy in a particular arrangement to fulfill a necessity. I'll repeat that. What you see here in this glass, this water taking this particular shape, okay? This particular shape is something that is naturally chaotic, brought together by energy, acting upon that, and then held together in this way, in this shape, to fulfill a necessity. Once again, this glass would not be here today if there was no necessity to hold a liquid in this shape. Do you all agree with me on that? This glass would not be here today if there was no necessity to hold liquid in this shape. See, liquid could also be held in this shape. So why didn't they make all the glasses in this shape? Why aren't all glasses in the world this shape? Is it not the same liquid? Can you not drink out of this just as well as you can drink out of this? So why did they make this shape as well as this? Because there was a necessity. What necessity? For liquid to be held in this shape. That's all this has offered you. A different shape, another shape. For all other intents and purposes, they both serve the same purpose. So there was a necessity for this shape. And out of that necessity, this shape was born. Because the glass was then shaped and molded in this way, now anytime you put a liquid into it, it's going to take the shape of that glass. Okay, so then, here's what dukkha is. This is even more subtle than the previous one, so I really want you to pay full attention. Try and understand this. The shape of the liquid in this glass is nothing more and nothing less than the mere bringing together of matter that is chaotic in a structure, in an order, in an arrangement that fulfills a necessity. That is what this shape entails. It is only this shape because of that. I'll keep saying it in different ways. One of these ways will drop the penny. Okay? This shape, I'm talking about the shape of the water, of the liquid. Not the glass per se, but I'm actually talking about the liquid. This liquid is this shape because of nothing more, nothing less than the mere necessity to manifest this shape to this world. To manifest this shape, what has the glassmaker done? They have brought matter and molded it into this shape, so that whatever liquid you put into this takes that shape. So, this, when you look at this, what you see is evidence of that. The shape of this water is evidence that there was a necessity for this shape. Does that make sense? You sure? Okay, put your hand up if it didn't make sense. All right, thank you. Maybe it's this glass, we'll take another one. See, think about this for a second. When both these glasses serve the same purpose, why on earth did they bother making this in two different shapes? I mean, what were they thinking, do you think? Necessity. Isn't it? There is no other, the necessity for what? To drink? No, because you can drink out of this as well. So imagine this came first to the world. And by the way, please don't cut this out and put it on YouTube, okay? Swami Nasi holding the... I always have to say that because who knows? Just imagine this came into the world first. This was the first wine glass that ever got invented, all right? A few years later, they came up with this, okay? Please answer this question. What purpose does this glass serve that this glass does not? Only one. What is it? Shape. Let's assume that the volume is the same and all the rest of it is the same, right? But the shape is different, isn't it? So then there could have only been one necessity, one additional necessity to bring this into this world when this already existed. What was that necessity? To hold liquid in that shape. Wasn't liquid held in a particular shape before then? Yes, it was. See? It was held in this shape. But that was not enough. There was a new necessity, an additional necessity to hold liquid in this shape. So what did they do? They made the glass in this shape. Okay. Then, when you look at the contents of this glass, it should be evidence to you. The shape of this glass, the shape of the liquid of this glass should be evidence to you, should speak volumes to you. It's screaming out loud to you. This, what is it? I am only like this. I am only like this in this shape because there was a necessity that needed to be fulfilled. And that's why I'm like this. To prove the point, I'm not going to do that. Let's fill this up. Okay, let's have a conversation with the liquid in this glass. I'm going to pretend that we are role playing, okay? So I'm going to be the liquid. You're going to be asking the questions, but because you don't have a microphone, I'll ask the questions on your behalf as well. The things I do for a living. My living is to make you stop living. Right. You can think about that later. So, let's have a conversation with the liquid in this glass. Okay, let's ask this glass a question. Let's ask the liquid a question. Why are you in this shape? What is the shape? Can we not draw it on the board? Let's attempt to draw it on the board. You know what my drawing is like. Something like this. Something like this, right? Okay? So we are asking, now this is not the container, this is just the liquid. Okay, so the container is this. So we are having a conversation with the liquid. So we're going to ask the liquid, hey Mr. Liquid, why are you taking this shape? Why have you taken this shape? What is the answer the liquid is going to offer you? Because that's the shape of the glass. Then we'll ask another question of the liquid. Do you wish to be in that shape? What's the liquid going to say? No. Does that bother you that you are in that shape? What's the liquid going to say? No. Do you prefer to be in that shape? No. Would you like to be in that shape for the rest of your life? No. Is it okay if I change your shape? What's the liquid going to say? Yeah, sure. No, I changed my mind. Okay. I changed my mind again. Still okay. Sounds like an arahant, doesn't it? Yes. That's why in the Rahulova, the Sutta, the Buddha gives a piece of advice to his lay son, who was then a young monk. Rahula, be like the water. Be like the water. The water has no preference. Water has no preference. Great teachers. So, come back. So, we've asked all these questions of the water, and the water always comes back with the same answer. It's evident to us now that the water has no preference, it has no desire to take this shape, it has no need, it has no expectation, no set agendas. Agreed? Yeah. So let's challenge the water. Let's challenge what it has just told us. We say in return to the water, you know what? I don't believe that you have no preference. I don't believe that. So that's you. Okay? Coming back to the water. So the water says, no, trust me, seriously, I really don't have a preference. You can do whatever you like. No, I don't believe you. You say again. So you're going to say, I'm going to test you. I'm going to test whether you actually have no preference. And the water says, yeah, sure, fine. Fill your boots. Pardon the pun. So now the water is prepared for you to do anything you like with it. So now to prove, because you think the water is lying, you think, no, the water surely has a preference. You're going to prove by pouring the contents of this glass into this, and then you expect what? It to retain the same shape. What happened? It changed shape. So now, what does the jury have to say about this? Who was right? The water was true and being truthful all along. It had no preference. It had no desire, no set agenda, which is why you were able to pour it into this container, and the water immediately, no sooner than you poured it into it. In fact, while you were pouring into it, not even after, and not before either. That's the beauty of it. See, it was not getting itself ready, was it, to go into the other container? Let me pack my bags, hold on. No, nothing like that. The water's like, you decide whenever you want it, whenever you say, I'm prepared to go. Are you like that? Whenever you say, I'm prepared to go. Are you like that? We'll see when the day comes. But what's the water like? You tell. Whenever you say, I'm prepared to go. And that is what the water, we have been proven, that the water has no preference. Then we have to now revise our judgment that we had about water. We thought that water was lying and that it actually had a preference. Now we have to revise that. So what is our revised judgment about water? That it has no preference, it has no set agenda, it has no likes or desires to be in a particular shape or form. It merely takes the shape of the container. Whatever the necessity of the maker of the container is, the water takes that shape and fulfills that necessity. Meaning, water has no necessity. The necessity is always that of what? The glass, or the maker of the glass. Not the water. I'm talking about the shape here, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the shape of the water is not determined by a necessity of water. It's determined by the necessity of the glass or the maker of the glass, either way. In the same way, like we discussed earlier, all there is energy in this universe. And energy itself has no desire, set agenda, necessity inherently. It has no necessity. Nature has no necessity. So necessity has to be artificially introduced into the system. Once again, necessity has to be artificially introduced into the system. What system? The universal system. Because necessity does not exist in energy. Okay? Right. There's another thing that's just come to my mind I want to share with you, but I'll finish with this first. Hopefully I'll remember the other one when we are done with this. So what is this dukkha characteristic? What I've just explained to you is a dukkha characteristic. That things only take a particular shape, a particular arrangement. It doesn't have to be a physical shape, by the way. So light is light, not because light wants to be light. Light does not have a shape. So it doesn't have to be material things that have size, length, width, breadth. It doesn't have to be like that. Any arrangement of energy is what I'm talking about here. Kinetic energy is not kinetic energy because it wants to be kinetic energy. That's why if you wish, you can transform that into light energy. At whose will? At whose will? At the energy's will? No. How does a turbine work? You hold a turbine to flowing water, and then that's kinetic energy of the water. At whose will does it convert to electrical energy? Is it the water's will? Do you think the water in the rivers go, let's go light up some lamps? Do you think the water's doing that? No, it's just flowing. Doesn't even know where it's flowing. Doesn't even know it's flowing. It's just there, that's all. But if you hold a turbine to a flow of water, then out of that system you get what? Electrical energy. So at whose will was that? Certainly not that of the energy, right? It was not the energy's requirement. That necessity was not part and parcel of the energy. So that necessity was an external thing. It had to be artificially induced into the system. Are we all clear on that? So then that is what this dukkha characteristic is. Whenever you have any arrangement of whatever, whether be that matter, be that energy, ladies and gentlemen, whenever you have an arrangement of something, that arrangement is an external influence on the things that are arranged. That which is arranged has no preference. That which is arranged has no desire, has no intent. It always has to be an external influence, an external push, an external force that keeps that which is arranged in that particular way. That is the characteristic of dukkha. See, you can see it here in this glass. What is it that's arranged right now? What is it that is subject to arrangement? Water. Does the water have a desire to be arranged in this particular way? No. It's the glass that's doing it to it, isn't it? See, that's external to the water. That's external to the water. It's not the water that has that desire. So, where did the glass come from? Someone made it, right? What can you tell me about that someone? They had a necessity. So someone with a necessity made this glass so that the contents of this glass would take this shape. Now we come to another very important point. What was the root of that necessity? When this glass already existed, in this world, why did they make another? You agreed with me that this didn't grow on a tree. So someone made this, and they well and truly knew that this was already there. They knew that this was there, but they still went ahead and made this as well, when there was actually no real need for it, besides shape. It doesn't change in flavor, doesn't change in texture, doesn't change in smell, doesn't change in color, doesn't change in any other way besides shape. So there must have been someone who actually liked this shape. They really liked this shape. Don't you think? Someone really liked this shape. And because they liked this shape, when they could have quite conveniently been satisfied with this glass, they went ahead and still made this. Because, well, we can't say whether they didn't like this shape, but here's what we can say: they also liked this shape. So whatever they liked, they brought into this world. What they liked, they brought into this world. In other words, necessity was the mother of invention. But what was the root of that necessity? They liked it. They desired it. They were attached to it mentally. Because before this became a physical object, it was already a mental object in someone's mind. So it was the mind that created this, because the mind desired this. So the mind was attached to this. And attachment only comes from what? Ignorance. So then ignorance and attachment were the roots of a necessity for something like this to come into existence. So if that is true of the wine glass, I rest my case. If that is true of the wine glass, show me a single strand of hair on your head that is not the product of ignorance and attachment. Show me a single cell of your body that is not a product of ignorance and attachment. Show me anything in this world that is around you that is not a product of ignorance and attachment. If everything in this world is such, what about the world itself? A product of ignorance and attachment. If Earth is so, what about Mars? What about Mercury? What about Venus? What about Neptune? What about Pluto? What about all of the planets in the solar system? If all of the planets of the solar system are so, what about the entire galaxy? If the galaxy is so, what about the entire universe? So who's the creator? Who is the creator? Ignorance and attachment. Avidya and tanha. Ignorance and attachment can only work on the mind. It cannot work on those things. Because only a mind can be ignorant. How pathetic. Only a mind can be ignorant. And an ignorant mind always attaches itself. So then, who's the creator? The ignorant mind. As you think, so you become. That's why they say, mano pubbangama dhamma. Whatever you think, so becomes. Dhamma is all the things that become. Rupa dhamma, shabda dhamma, gandha dhamma, rasa dhamma, sparsha dhamma, dhamma dhamma. These are all dhamma. Whatever the world bears is dhamma. But mano pubbangama, they're all mental. The mind is always the forerunner. This is why if you can learn to master your mind, you can make anything happen. So who's your God then? You think about that leisurely. So you see, what is dukkha then? You can only have dukkha because there is anicca. Anicca is this chaotic nature of all stuff. To bring all that together to fulfill a necessity. And when things are in a particular shape, when it has taken a particular order, that order is driven by necessity. So when you see something that has taken a particular shape, take this pen for instance, it has taken a particular shape. When you look at this, can't you tell a story about this? A whole tale? Based on what we've just discussed, in the context we have just discussed, can't you tell a whole tale about this pen? What can you say about this pen? That there was a necessity, yeah? And then there was energy in this universe. That necessity was driven through ignorance and attachment. The need to write came in first. And then because there was a need to write, there was a desire for that. And then there was a vexation for that. And then to relieve oneself of that vexation, the mind started to work. What does work do? Put order to chaos. That is what Sankára is. putting order to chaos. So then that's how this came into being. And now you have the pen. See, you can look at a pen and give a whole tale on it. The whole tale. You can look at any object in this room now and talk about its origin, talk about its genesis. So that's another chapter. Genesis. See, now you can share the story of how things came into being. It all started with ignorance and attachment. And that's how you have everything in this world. So dukkha is that characteristic, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, anicca is that chaotic nature. No iccha. You can read anicca as no iccha. It's fine. No iccha. What is iccha again? An expectation. You talked about this. An agenda. A set order. There's no such set orders. There's no agenda. It's all chaotic. So what is in chaos has to be brought into order. What is it then, you tell me, brings what is in chaos into order? Now the penny has to start dropping. What is it that brings what is in chaos to order? Necessity, yes, but what is necessity rooted in? Ignorance and attachment, of course, there you go. So then what brings order to chaos? Ignorance and attachment. So once you take out ignorance and attachment, what happens? Order goes back to chaos. So then for what is in chaos, to be kept in order, you must constantly keep feeding it with the energy of ignorance and the energy of attachment. That's what they call the bonds of raga, the bonds of dvesha, and the bonds of moha. These are bonds. Raga, dvesha, moha, bonds. That's why when you chant the Arya Maitri, you reflect or you contemplate, may I be freed from the bondage of desire, the bondage of aversion, the bondage of delusion. Because these bonds are rooted in ignorance and attachment. Now do you see how everything around you is a product of ignorance and attachment then? So what brought this wine glass into this world? What brought the wine glass into the world? Ignorance and attachment. What brought the wine into this world? Yeah, tell that to your husband when you get back home. What's brought everything into this world? So why are you in this world then? The ultimate question. Why are you in this world? I'll help you answer that question by dropping a little hint, a subtle hint. Whatever happened to those who eradicated ignorance and attachment? Whatever happened to them? What happened to the Buddha? Became extinct. What happened to the great elder Sariputta? Became extinct. Like a flame is extinguished. You cannot say where it went, because if it went somewhere, it's still there. Yeah? Khinam purana navan natti sambhavan. It does not come into being again. If something goes somewhere, then it exists there, just not here. But just like a flame becomes extinguished, in the same way, once ignorance and attachment are eradicated, ladies and gentlemen, all aggregations become extinct. In other words, you take out order from matter, energy, taking them all back to chaos. You've come from nature and you go back to nature. Your minds are the same, your bodies are the same. So if that's all you are, then that is you. You've come from nature, and you will remain as you are in this form for as long as you keep fighting nature. But remember, it's not a fight that you can win. This is not remember the 30-year long war we had in Sri Lanka? For 30 long years we fought. Just imagine for a second that there is no rebirth after this life. That's it, you're done. Okay? So you're going to live till 120. Good. Right. Give my regards to the next Buddha as well, right? When you see him. So you're going to live till 120. For these 120 long years, what are you going to have to do? Keep on funneling energy. Keep on funneling energy to keep these bodies of yours alive. I'm saying, just assume that there is no rebirth. So this is it, this is the last one, and then you're gone. But at least until these 120 years have expired, you're going to keep on, you're going to have to keep on funneling energy into it. And the moment you stop that, that's what happened to your grandmother. She could not eat. There came a point in her life where she was too weak to eat. So she was on her bed. You tried to feed her as much as you could. That's what happened with your grandfather. You tried to feed her. But they were becoming too weak. They couldn't, the best use of their bodies were gone by that point. And then more decomposition, less composition, and in the end, dispersed. But that was only the body. That's the thing. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that that was only the body. When your grandmother, grandfather passed away, it was the body that passed away. The mind was very much still intact. The mind still wanted existence. So the moment the body is decomposed, now the mind takes root in another form and quickly brings energy back together again and condenses that energy and creates another physical form. And so your journey of samsara continues from birth to birth to birth to birth until one day you realize what a useless, futile, essenceless, meaningless existence this is. And when will you do that? The day you realize that happiness is not to be found out there. Happiness is to be found when you stop looking for it. It is always with you. So now you understand Anicca and Dukkha. Let me take a quick few minutes to explain what Anatta is then. Anatta is the conclusion that you come to once you have understood Anicca and Dukkha. Anatta is the conclusion that you have to come to. To understand what Anatta is, let me remind you that your understanding of the world is that it is Atta, meaning that the world is full of entities. That's why when you think of yourself, you think of yourself as a self. I'm here, see, I am. I am and I always was. The I never changed, right? The I never changed. That's the impression that you have about yourself. You kept doing different things. You grew up, right? You went through different cycles of life. You did all sorts. But the you, the core of you, that never changed, right? Who had your younger years? Who was it that had your younger years? You did. Who has your present? You have. Who's going to have your future? Me? Then? Your neighbor? No, who's going to live your future? You are going to live. See, so that you persisted throughout your life. That is a creation of the mind. Because if all things are conditioned, ladies and gentlemen, how can there be an exception? If all things are anicca and dukkha, if all aggregations are merely aggregations to fulfill a necessity, how can there be an exception to that? So then your sense of self as well is a creation to fulfill what? a necessity. Your necessity to identify with yourself puts your mind into a great deal of stress, turmoil. And then your mind goes into vexation. Then the mind starts to work. What is work again? Bringing order to chaos. So your mind then starts to go to work. That is the work that we call abhisankhara. And out of that work, the mind gathers up energy and it creates a sense of self, which is what you perceive right now. If that's all there is, can there be a unique self? Can there be an entity of a self? Can you accept from here on then that this water has taken a fixed shape, that it will never change? If anyone were to say that, won't you completely deny that and disagree with that? Yes, because your understanding of this has changed now. Now you understand, well, you always understood about the water. That is, this water merely takes the shape that the glass inflicts upon it. The glass imposes that shape on it. You agree with that, don't you? Yeah? So the glass imposes that shape on the water. Nothing more than that. So the water itself does not have this shape. That is your understanding of anatta. To think that it has its own shape, this unique shape is its own, you can take the glass away and the shape will still remain. To think like that is to think that the world is atta, meaning fixed. It's an entity, like you feel about yourself. But once you understand that it is not so, it is merely the aggregation of rupa in this example. But in your example, the aggregation of rupa, vedana, sanya, sankára, vijñāna, and then ignorance and attachment on top of that. That's when you get the sense of self. So I will relate what we have talked about today to your sense of self in the next talk. Okay, so you need not worry about that. In fact, I will go into more detail about anatta, which is the conclusion that you have to come to. But if today you can go home, having understood at least anicca and dukkha, that in itself is a huge victory. Did that make sense to you? Maybe not the last part, the anatta part, we'll go over it again. But what anicca is, the fact that all there is chaos, and what dukkha is, whenever there is an arrangement, it's merely order that has been imposed on that which is chaotic. But that imposition is a product of ignorance, it's a product of necessity. So ignorance and attachment are the mother and the father that create this entire universe. So, kill the mother and the father. And the whole world ceases to exist. Shall we leave it there for today? So here's what I suggest you do. Go back and try and listen to this talk at least once again. I know this is a little bit heavy, but I've tried to use examples and metaphors and similes and analogies to help get the point across. But if you have understood this, ladies and gentlemen, now you have a philosophy, a doctrine that you can apply to anything. It's universal. This is the theory of everything. It applies to everything. All phenomena, all conditioned phenomena are governed by anicca, dukkha and anatta. Lastly, I will say this. It is said why a Buddha comes into this world. And it is said in these words, Nahi silena vatang hotu uppajjanti tathagata attakara tini pada sambuddhena pakasita. What that means is, a Buddha does not come into this world to teach us about rituals or practices, lighting oil lamps, laying flowers down at his feet. Those were traditions, rituals we've always had even before the Buddha. Most all religions have said that sort of thing, don't they? So then Buddhist philosophy is not the religion. It's not the ism. It's the philosophy. Attakarati nipada. There are 3 words which are composed of 8 characters. If you write these in Pali, you will see why it is that. This is in English. Attakarati nipada sambuddhena pakasita. A Buddha comes into this world to reveal these 3 characteristics about this universe. Because it is ignorance of these 3 characteristics that causes suffering in sentient beings. Welcome to the sambuddha sásana. Oh, I long for the day when all this existence will come to an end, when I don't have to even worry about keeping myself up. This is tiring. This is exhausting. I have to eat to keep myself alive. I never think I get to eat. I think I have to eat. This is exhausting. I have to think to survive. It's exhausting. I wouldn't have minded it if there was a point to it, if there was something productive to come out of it. But ultimately, when all is said and done, it's all useless. Because everything that comes together returns to chaos. We can build the world up, ladies and gentlemen. We can do. We can become the greatest nation that the world has ever seen if you want. We can build up civilizations. We can do all sorts. But let's not forget that we are all acting against nature. Therefore, when nature decides it's time, everything we have brought to order will return to chaos. Then what's the blooming point? Let's do something useful. Let's not be satisfied with just short-term pleasures. Let's not insult our intelligence. Let's look beyond. Let's transcend this material world that we think and live in. Let's see what's on the other side. Let's go back to where we began. You came from nothing, but today you have become something. Because you're a something, you must always remain a something. And for that, you have to keep working hard at it. 60, 70, 80 long years you have worked your socks off. And you're tired, I know you are. You're exhausted, I know you are. I know you are. That's why you keep coming here. If you weren't, you'd be staying at home, putting your feet up on the coffee desk, watching TV. But you're here because you worked your whole life and you're tired now. You've earned your money, you've earned your education, you've earned your qualifications. You've built up your businesses. You've built the whole world around you. You've built up a family. You worked in your careers, up the career ladder, to the pinnacle of your careers, and now you're tired, aren't you? So now you're looking for respite. You're looking for solace. You're looking for retirement. Trust me, you will only find retirement in the sambuddha sásana. Your death here is not retirement. It's just a sabbatical. Long live the Sri Sambuddha Sasana. Let's transfer the merits and bring today's sermon to a close. I have an announcement to make. Yes, thank you for the reminder. So, we are on the dawn of the new year, and therefore next week and the week after, we have no sermons at the school because the school will be closed on both Sundays because we have Easter Sunday the following Sunday. So no sermons next week. Yay! But there's plenty you can be doing. All this new year is in your head. You are born with every chitta. What new year are you talking about? What's the point of wishing someone a happy new year? They were not even there the previous year. Let alone the previous year, they were not there the previous second. So you can only wish someone a happy new moment. That's all it is, because you're only momentary. In this moment you are, in the next moment you're gone. So what are we talking about, a new year? But anyway, those are conventions, and we must not go against or fight against conventions. We must respect them. We acknowledge them. So we work with them. So even at the monastery, we get together as a family and we perform New Year rituals, because we don't want to go against the world. We just want to help people understand the truths. Conventions we must not do away with. Let them be. Absolute realities are merely to be understood and comprehended, not to be enacted. Is it? We live convention, but we realize absolute truths. That's the way we operate. So next week, you have the day before New Year's, Alutawurdu. So, of course, you always have my blessings and the blessings of the Mahasangha. May the New Year bring you every prosperity that you wish for. But the only prosperity that I wish for you, because I can't be a hypocrite and have spoken to you for the last however many sermons and then say, oh, you go on and live a happy life, huh? And may you be wealthy and may you be healthy and may you have this, that and the other, when I know all of it just goes back into chaos. What I want for you, ladies and gentlemen, is this to be a new year in which you further your knowledge, your understanding of the Dhamma. Come closer to the Dhamma. Come closer to the Sangha. Embrace the Sangha. Embrace the sásana. Earn merits. Do more merits. Support one another. Support each other. You have a wonderful community here. This wouldn't be easy if you came here alone, I promise you that. Although you may not know the person sat either side of you, their presence here itself was a vote of confidence to you. As you walked into this room for the first time, you looked around and thought, ooh, something must be going right here. So you decided to come and sit in, and then you listened to the sermon. At the end of it, you realized, he's got a point. But if you were the first person to walk into this room, you might have walked away sooner than you walked in. So you see, the community brings something to the party, and you are part of it. So embrace the community, help and look after one another. Look after and give yourself up to anyone who's interested in Nibbāna. It's no waste of time, ladies and gentlemen, to give your time up for someone like that. Here, that's what I'm doing here. I'm giving up my time for those who wish to attain Nibbāna. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. That's why the school has so generously made these facilities available to us, and to this day not to charge a single penny for any of it. Not even a talk of it. And when this space is occupied, they always make sure that we have the other one. How generous are they? All because they want Nibbāna. For everyone, for all. And for everyone among you who've been working so hard to make this place what it is today, to do the decorations here, to bring the Swami Nuhanse here, to make those facilities available, to offer the Gilampas, to offer the Dāne, to decorate the stage so that when someone comes in anew, they look at it and go, very nice. So as they come in for the sight, but they stay for the insight. That happens at the end of the sermon. So that's what I'm saying. It's the community. This is the gift that I give you on New Year. You. You are the gift. Your profound understanding of the Dhamma, your growth in the Dhamma, your development in the Dhamma, that is the gift that the Mahasangha has to offer to you. So may that grow within you. May your insights grow. May your wisdom grow. May you be a blessing to all around you. And most of all to yourself. May your families rejoice in your presence. May your children benefit from you having become a greater mother, a greater father, greater because your understanding of the Dhamma has developed, has cultivated. That's what I have to wish you. So there's plenty to do in the new year. Just don't come in here next Sunday. And the following Sunday on the 20th, there will be a program at the monastery. So Guru Swami Wahanse's sermon will be conducted as usual next Sunday as well, but he insists that you stay at home and be with your family unless you have no family, in which case we are more than happy to be your family. Right? But if people expect you to be at home, you must be with them. Don't fight against them. They may not have understood the Dhamma enough yet to let go of you. Perhaps they're still so strongly attached to you. Don't fight them. Don't hurt them. Help them, not hurt them. So, but on the 20th, the sermon will happen at the monastery. And in the morning, we'll have a sermon again at the monastery. So if you can make your way there, you can join that. And in the time between those two sermons, we'll have the alms giving and all that, as well as time for meditation. So we'll design a meditation program for you, so you can come and do a little bit of that in the new year as well. And then on the 16th, which is the oil anointing ceremony, which again we have at the monastery. Of course, it goes without saying, you're all welcome. But I will say it anyway. You're all welcome as members of our family. And the auspicious time is, I think, a little past 9. It'll go on. Usually we have around 2,000 to 3,000 people who come in. So it'll usually go on from 9 till about 1 o'clock. So I'm just saying you can come in you don't have to be there sharp at 9 because, you have to wait until the Swami Nuances are done. And then the Anagarika Mahatmas are done, the Anagarika Mahatmas are done. And then, of course, you will all get your turn. So Guru Swami Wahanse will, out of pure compassion and love to you all, he will anoint you with holy oil. So you can join that. And then after that, it'll be the event we look forward to every year, which is an opportunity we get to offer alms to you. So at the monastery, you will come with your alms bowl, and then I will be saying, you can do it. So we really look forward to that. It's something we really look forward to every year, to reciprocate that beautiful gesture that you all do every day of the year to us. It's the one opportunity I think we get in the year to reciprocate that, and we really rejoice in that. So you're all welcome. That's on the 16th Wednesday after the oil anointing ceremony. I think I've said everything. Okay. That was Sunday. Let's take a moment to transfer the merits then and bring today's sermon to a close. Let us all take a moment then to transfer the merits that we have all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, listening to the Dhamma and inviting the Swami Master to deliver the sermon, as well as creating a conducive environment for all to come along and practice the Buddha's teachings. First and foremost, let us transfer these merits to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas, who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and passed it down to generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us take a moment to transfer this merits to all monks and nuns resident throughout the world, including the Mahanayakas and the Anunayaka Theras of all the chapters, as well as the monks and nuns who are resident in your local temples and nunneries who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let us also transfer this merits to my teacher, Guru Swami Wahanse, as well as all the monks and nuns, all the monks and Anagarikas and Anagarikas resident at the monastery. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by transliterating these talks, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. Let us also transfer these merits to those who make contributions towards the sambuddha sásana, friends of the monastery, who make those contributions in the name of Nibbāna so that they can earn merits to help them progress on their path to ultimate bliss. May they all rejoice in these merits. Let us also transfer these merits to our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our friends, our acquaintances, our employers and our employees, as well as our teachers, our friends and our acquaintances, anyone and everyone who've helped us, supported us, assisted us in any way, shape or form to help make our lives that much better. Let us take a moment to transfer all these merits to all of them. And by the power of these merits, may they be freed of any physical and mental ailments and overcoming obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our forefathers, our ancestors, those who have passed away in our name, as well as those who sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation, members of the armed forces as well as the police force who've sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. Let us also transfer this message to those who lost their lives in the wars, be they friend or foe, as well as those who lost their lives to natural disasters and calamities such as tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides, fires, floods, pandemics, and so on. Reminding ourselves that in this infinitely long journey of samsara, they will all have been mothers and fathers to us, brothers and sisters to us, friends to us, and so out of loving kindness and compassion towards all of them, let us transfer all the merits that we have acquired to all, and may by the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who have committed themselves to fulfill and preserve the sambuddha sásana. May these merits help them to prosper in divine power and wisdom and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants on this blessed land. And finally, may you and I and everyone who's helped make this program a success become a Rahatan Vahanse or an Arahat Theranin Vahanse in this very life itself, and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Raga ginnen midetnva, dvesha ginnen midetnva, moha ginnen midetnva, Nibbāna parama sukhayen sukhita taravetnva. Nibbāna parama sukhayen sukhita taravetnva. Mamada siyalu loka Siyalu satvayo Nibbāna parama sukhayen sukhita taravetnva. Nibbāna parama sukhayen sukhita taravetnva. Nibbāna parama sukhayen sukhita taravetnva. Raga gini niveva desha gini niveva moha gini niveva nivan sapa labeva nivan sapa labeva nivan sapa labeva. Tunuruvange Suisi Ananta Mahaguna Belen, Siru Loka Siru Satyoma, Nibbāna Paramasukhen, Sugita Taravetva. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.